I'd like to talk about, well, you've all heard the idiom to take up your cross and follow Jesus. That's kind of a confusing sentence. What does it mean? Are we supposed to pick up a big old heavy lumber cross and follow Jesus? Well, we're going to talk about that today. Basically, the basics is it means to accept Jesus as your Lord, repent of your sins, and know that no one is perfect. I mean, we're saved, we believe in Jesus, we've got salvation, and we go on with our lives, and we will continue to have challenges, and we will continue to make mistakes. We support our church through prayer and financial giving. We can't survive without either of those things. We also can be involved in many ministries. We've got lots of ministries that need leadership. We can study our Bible, we attend church, we can go to Bible study on Wednesdays. We know that those are all part of the Christian life. But today, I want each of you to think bigger and bigger. Think about how you have the things of God on your mind, not the things of humanity. We're going to be talking about relationships. Well, not relationships, but we're going to be talking about how we can be related to the things of God instead of the things to the world. So we're going to start with that phrase, take up your cross and follow Jesus, or follow God. And that means you're going to have to think outside of the box, think outside of your comfort zone. You know, if an opportunity comes up and you think, oh, I'm not comfortable, I don't want to go do that. I'm not comfortable speaking on stage. I'm not comfortable with those type of people. Well, sometimes you're called to get out of your comfort zone. Or another way to think of it is to think outside of your box. Maybe you've got tunnel vision, so to speak, and don't see the other alternatives. It's going to be a challenge for all of us to do this. And this is a challenge for everyone on earth. So we're going to go through, I want you to be patient, and I want you to be patient with me while I set up our scenario by unpacking these verses. Mark 8:27 is first. And it says, Jesus and his disciples went to the villages around Caesarea Philippi. On the way, he asked them, "Who do people say I am?" That's an important question because Jesus had been teaching his disciples for 3 years and had been traveling with them for 3 years. They were very close. And Jesus knows that very soon he will be going to the cross and that his 3 years of ministry will be at an end. So he didn't want to be teaching his disciples for 3 years for nothing. So he asked them, who? Because if people cannot see God in Jesus, that means that his teaching had been in vain. So, while they were on the way to Caesarea Philippi, and he knew that in 6 months from that time he would be going to Jerusalem and be sacrificed. So in Mark 8:28, it goes on to say, they replied, "Some say John the Baptist, others say Elijah, and still others say one of the prophets." Now remember, at that time there was a lot of chaos, a lot of confusion about who Jesus was. Remember that people were confused about who Jesus was? Do you know why they were confused? Does anybody remember why there was so much confusion? Because he had not died on the cross yet? Yeah, that's true. Because remember, the disciples were Jewish. All of the disciples were Jewish. None of them were Gentiles. They were all Jews who were Jesus' disciple. And they were all looking for a Messiah to come and save them. And to save them specifically from the Roman government and from the Roman domination. They were looking for a knight on a white horse, so to speak, to come and save them. But Jesus came and traveled with them and taught them. And they were waiting for Jesus to become a king and liberate them. So people were confused about why is Jesus still teaching? Why is he not overthrowing Roman domination? And they had heard some rumors about that. Some of them thought he was Elijah. Some of them thought he was John the Baptist. And Jesus knew those rumors, so he was asking his disciples for confirmation. So verse 29 goes on to say, but, this is Jesus talking, but what about you? Who do you say I am? Peter answered, you are the Messiah. And remember, in 6 months, Jesus would be crucified on the cross. But Peter answered correctly that he was the Christ. Now Christ is not a name. Jesus' name was Jesus. But the word Christ was a title that means deliverer or Messiah. Now the word Messiah is the Greek pronunciation. And then there's another word, Misharak, that was Hebrew. So Peter had answered rightly, but still they were looking for someone to come and liberate them from Rome. And today there's still a lot of people who think that, Jesus was a great guy. He was brilliant, he was a prophet, but he wasn't any Messiah. There's still some Jewish people who believe that. Now some Jewish people also believe in Jesus, but most Jewish people think that he was a great prophet and not the Messiah. Verse 30 goes on to say, Jesus warned them not to tell anyone about him. Jesus wanted to wait until the gospel was complete. He wanted to go through his crucifixion, his burial, and his resurrection, because then the gospel story would be complete, and after that they were free to tell the world. So that's the reason Jesus told them not to tell anyone about him now, but to wait. In verse 31, it goes on to say, he then began to teach them that the Son of Man must suffer many things and be rejected by the elders, the chief priests, and the teachers of the law would also reject him, and that he must be killed and after 3 days rise again. So Jesus was explaining. Remember, he had been teaching and traveling and healing people, but they were waiting for him to become a king and to end the Roman domination. And Jesus now is telling them, no, that's not going to happen. And the chief priests, the elders, the teachers of the law are going to be rejecting me. Plus, I will be crucified. I will die on the cross, and this has to happen. And can you imagine how stunned the disciples must have been? They must have thought, this cannot be. Jesus came to save us. He's a Jew. We know he was coming to save us. We trust him. We believe in him. But maybe there's someone new we should be looking for. So they were confused. In verse 32, it says, Jesus spoke plainly about this. And Peter did not believe a word of it. He thought Jesus is going to become a king and release us from this Roman rule. So Peter took Jesus aside and began to rebuke him. In other words, Peter told him, stop this talk, you're going to be king. Shame on you. Because Peter really wasn't used to the idea that Jesus would take that low station, so low to be crucified on a cross in order to save us. That just did not fit Peter's concept at all, and he had a hard time accepting that. In fact, he did not. So verse 33 says, but when Jesus turned and looked at his disciples, he rebuked Peter. Get behind me, Satan, he said. You do not have in mind the concerns of God, but merely human concerns. Wow. Peter tried to dissuade Jesus from going to the cross, which is the same thing that Satan had done 3 years prior. Satan tried to tempt Jesus to not take up his ministry. You guys remember that story? Satan tried to convince Jesus to relinquish his ministry before it even began. And now, at the end of his ministry, Jesus is trying to, Peter is trying to dissuade Jesus. You know, Jesus didn't want to suffer, but he knew he had to take the burden of our sins onto the cross. Now, he could have said no, because he didn't want to suffer. He did not want to die. He knew he could have changed this plan if he wanted to. But, so when Peter tried to tempt him, the same as Satan had tried to tempt him, to back out of this ministry, that was a big deal. Now, there's several important points in this, but one salient point is sometimes the tempter who talks to you will talk to you through someone very close to you. Do you understand that? Sometimes Satan will try to tempt you to not do something that's great, and he will use someone you are close to. Peter was very close to Jesus, but Satan convinced Peter to try to convince Jesus to relinquish his ministry. You know? It can be something good and something right that you're trying to do, but you know you might have trouble. Maybe you'll be unpopular if you do this. Maybe sacrifice is involved in your decisions. And it could be that a good close friend will come and try and convince you not to do what you know is right and what you know is good. So don't think that Satan is going to show up with a red tail and horns and a pitchfork. He's not going to show up like that. Satan will use your family. Satan can use your friends, your co-workers, really anyone, to try and convince you not to do the good and proper thing that you are planning to do. And always that can happen. Satan's worst attack is through the voice of someone to whom you are close. Peter was close to Jesus. He'd been with him for 2.5 years. Peter worried about people. That's why he went and approached Jesus. Peter's heart was right, so to speak. But Satan was actually using Peter to try and convince Jesus to relinquish his ministry. So now in verses 34 through 38, it goes on to say, "Then he called the crowd to him, along with his disciples, and said, 'Whoever wants to be my disciple must deny themselves and take up their cross and follow me. For whoever wants to save their life will lose it, but whoever loses their life for me and for the gospel will save it.' What good is it for someone to gain the whole world, yet forfeit their soul? Or what can anyone give in exchange for their soul? If anyone is ashamed of me and my words in this adulterous and sinful generation, the Son of Man will be ashamed of them when he comes in his Father's glory with the holy angels." So it's important that we know what it means to follow Jesus. We know what it means to be Christ-like. We know that, we think, but do we really understand what it means to deny ourselves, to take up our cross and follow Jesus? Do we thoroughly understand what that means? I'm not so sure. I think it can be very confusing sometimes. And this week I want each and every one of you to do a personal inventory. I want you to think of ways that you can deny yourself and keep your mind focused on the things of God. What you can do to care for other people. Think relationally. I want you to have God in your minds and in your thoughts, and use that to think about how we can take care of other people. You know, God always uses our talents. He wants us to think outside of the box. God wants to call us out of our comfort zone. But I am asking each and every one of you to take up your cross every morning. Continue to pray, continue to read the Bible, yes, of course. Continue to try and improve yourselves. You know, keep a good attitude. All of that is involved in taking up your cross. But I'd like to add something to this. Yes, do read the Bible. Yes, do keep a good attitude. Do attend church. Do attend Bible study. Do all those things that you've been doing currently, but add something new. Every morning, I'm challenging you as an individual and as your families. Every morning, I want you to think about someone that you can help. It could be an individual, it could be a group of people. And that will cause you to get out of your comfort zone. Now, don't be thinking about the concerns of the world, but think about what God wants. Maybe you could offer to babysit for somebody. Now, I'm challenging you to add something new to your life. And it's not easy at all to do this. You know, maybe you can offer to babysit for someone. I mean, you don't have to advertise and say, I can babysit for $10 an hour. No, I mean, if somebody asks somebody if they want to go out Friday night, you'll take care of the kids, and they can go out and don't have to pay you a bit. That's the kind of help I mean. Going to the nursing home and visiting is not easy. Sitting down at the nursing home and having a conversation with the residents is not easy at all. Mow somebody's yard without being paid. If you see an elderly neighbor, just go ahead and mow their yard. Yes, I know you're busy, but go ahead and just do it. Visit the Nepali folks and take them somewhere. We have got 7 Nepali refugees now, and it's a challenge. Sit down, play, and talk with someone who has special needs. Sit down. Don't just stand up and talk and leave. Sit down and really have a conversation. Because special needs folks are lonely too. In fact, they're incredibly lonely. And they want to converse. Don't just walk past them. Sit, give them your attention, and have a conversation. Volunteer to lead Bible study for 3 months, or teach the kids for 3 months. Purchase something that Deaf International Community Church needs. Take over a ministry here. Pick somebody up and bring him to church. Boy, I know that's a big one, isn't it? You have to get up earlier, you have to drive, you have to pick them up, you have to drive to church, you have to drive them back. I know it's tedious, but you do that. There's a lot of people who want to come, and we don't have enough drivers to pick them all up. And I always feel so sorry when I have to tell someone we can't pick them up. Go to some event that's not really important to you, but if you show up, it'll be important to that person who's hosting it. Really, I've got a story about that. This has truly changed my life, seriously. In a Council Bluffs church, a long time ago, I was at the parking lot, and somebody texted me and said, are you going to a funeral? And I said, whose funeral? He said, oh, it was Chuck Beard's brother had passed away. Well, I had worked with Chuck in Iowa, and we were pretty close. You know, we worked very well together, but I was really busy that day. I had so many appointments. I was just feeling pretty overwhelmed. And I thought, you know, who am I? I'm not really a significant person to Chuck Beard. He's got plenty of friends. And if I'm not there, nobody's going to care. I need to finish my work. But I felt the Holy Spirit grabbing me by the shoulder while I was sitting there in the car, even though I did not want to go because it was a couple-hour drive. It was a hearing church. There were just all these reasons I didn't want to go. But I did. And I went in, and Chuck saw me. He came running down the aisles, gave me a big hug, and asked me to sit with him at the funeral. And I sat with him and his sister Sue at the house, and we just talked. He really needed me to be there that day. And I was stunned that because I came, it made a difference in his life that day. So maybe you'll have an invitation to go somewhere and you'll think, yeah, I don't want to do it. Just kind of throw it away and not show up. You say, but you know, we all do that. You think, oh, I'd rather watch the football game, or I'd rather watch the Royals, or I'd rather sleep in, or I'd rather do this, that, or the other thing, whatever. But think twice. Maybe to that individual, you showing up will make a big difference in their life. You know, people sometimes look for numbers. And if people show up, people feel loved. Now, if you don't show up, people don't feel loved, and that's just how life works. So you can either be building people up by your presence, or by your absence, you can be diminishing them. So it's important for us to attend events, even if you don't want to. Now remember, you're not going for earthly reasons, you're going for heavenly reasons. That's what Jesus meant. He said, don't think about the earthly concerns and the earthly reasons to do things. Think about the heavenly reasons. Think about that person, that individual who could benefit if you show up. And know that you're going for them, not for your own gratification. You know, there's just a whole lot of things we can do. And something else I'd like to add. Be involved with your children. Teach your children. They'll have serving is a wonderful life. Not just to do for their own gratification. It's a wonderful life to serve and do for God. And we can show that through example. And by showing our example, we will be showing them how to take up their classes too. And this is key. This is a very key point of ministry and marriage and family life. It's also critical for your workspace, and that is with any relationship. Once you invest in your children, they will learn from you for sure. For example, when you're working for God's purposes and not for worldly gain, don't complain. Do not complain. Got it? Now, if God is challenging you one day at a time, or maybe for 1 week, maybe God will be challenging you with some act of service. So pray that God will show you how you can learn and improve through that act. And you will change for sure. You will be changed. God will be molding you to become the person you are meant to be. Now, don't expect everything you undertake to be easy. That's lazy thinking. If you've got a new job, a new career, you know, Gambino's, wow, that's a huge undertaking. That's a big, big deal. There will be challenges for them. There will be problems. But they will have a great time. And they will have sometimes will be easy as well. But through all the ups and downs, we need to stay positive. We need to keep our attitudes good. We need to keep praising the Lord and see the good in that. And know that through these experiences, God is shaping you to become a better person. You know, and when we serve, it's not called serving. You know, who cares if you're worn out at the end of the project? It's okay. It's okay to be worn out. So if problems appear during your service or your project or whatever you're doing, that's okay. You have to expect problems to appear. It's fine. Expect that to happen. But just know that through it all, God will be showing you. And keep your attitude positive, and your children will see how you react and how you make it through. You know, sometimes there's a murmur. And you know what? Murmurs can be contagious. People can pick up on them. You know, I've had a challenge for a month. And my goal, my personal goal, was to not complain. And I've done pretty well. Pretty well. I can see some positives now in almost all situations. And if I can't, then I sit and then I get on my knees and I ask God to show me where the positives are. I said, what I'm facing now seems big, but Lord, I know you're bigger than these situations, so show me the positives through this, through the process. And he does. You know, and I say that out loud. And I decided not to say or sign anything negative. And I've done pretty well because the Holy Spirit is helping me. But my second step is I don't want to have any inner kvetches. You know, I hate that inner talk to myself. Maybe I haven't said anything negative, but I want my heart to have nothing negative. That is my goal. You know, and expect life to be challenging. Expect problems to arise. But remember, God is in control. And I know that past this, there will be a beautiful experience. And I know that past this, I will be a better person. Because I do believe and I do trust. So this month, that's my challenge of the month. For me, it's to have that inner kvetching stopped and to notice it as soon as it starts and to pray for forgiveness. That inner complaint can happen. But there was one day that happened in that month after I had not said or signed anything negative that I did. And then I just immediately asked for forgiveness. And I thought, oh my gosh, where did that come from? It has been inside, but now it was outward. And maybe you think you did pretty good. Like one day I thought I did pretty well all day and all night, but the next day I said something negative. And the next day after that, guess what happened? Come on, you know, I like to make you guys guess. What do you think happened the next day after that? Nope. You're close. I made Al complain. I hate to be a negative influence on anyone. And that's my number one goal, to never influence anyone negatively. I want to be the best I can be. I mean, of course, I naturally make mistakes, but I made Al complain. And I said, oh my gosh, that's my fault. I have rubbed up on you. Please don't say anything. So how can I make that experience better next time? You all know what I mean. You know what I mean. If your complaints and negativity is ugly. So sometimes you think, we even talked about that, and then 2 hours later we were both complaining again. And I just had to fall on my knees and ask God to remove that from my heart. Because I knew that Satan was using me to pull Al down. And we both had to really look at that experience. And in a way, it was a great experience. It was a blessing for us. Doesn't mean I want to take that experience again, but it means that it was an impetus for change. Our influence on each other is powerful. Be careful how you're influencing your husband, your wife, your spouse, your children, or anyone or anything. Just pray and ask God to show you the words to say to resolve whatever the situation, to improve whatever the situation is, to take away the negativity. Because that negativity and that complaining has no place in the Christian life. It's poison, it's ugly, it will tear people down. And it's being an instrument of the devil to help tear people down. Amen and amen. Let's pray. Oh, Heavenly Father,